Welcome to Show Me the Way podcast. And today it's Gabriella.
Hi.
Um, Short introduction. Gabriella is one of the Show Me practitioners. I met Gabriella when I walked my dog in our park. She's a neighbor. And I was new here in the neighborhood. It was 2020, started COVID, and Gab was there. And we were just started to talk. Very quickly, there was a click, and then I introduced Show Me to her. And from there, it was kind of like a love story. And it's a great opportunity after 5 years since we've met, which is crazy just to think about it, right? um, to share this journey, like together, to understand what happened, how Show Me showed you, you know, way, your Tao, your journey. So, yeah, I'm gonna lead you through questions. But first, just I want without the question, without the leading question. I love freestyle. Um, Tell me about, how you see that. What's your story?
My story is, yeah, it was like that, where I was at the park taking my dog Coco, like I always did on his walks. And I was in a dark place. I remember we talked about, like the void I was in. I said, I feel like I'm in a void. And I'm very open. I tell everybody all my interpersonal details. If anybody bothers to ask why, what's going on with you, I'll tell anybody my personal life. But with you, like, yeah, there was this click, and I was saying a lot more because you ask questions too. You know you're asking questions and diving deeper, and you automatically create this space where someone feels welcomed. They're given a space to be able to open up. And because I am a person who's constantly looking for space because I wasn't given space, I think that's why I tell everybody my story, because I'm constantly looking for that space that wasn't given to me, and I want other people to give me that space. So you gave me that space by saying, I actually want to hear you. And it all came out, everything. And what is all that I want to do is to release. And I'm in a dark place, and I'm sad, and I feel frustrated. I don't know what I'm doing with life. I don't know where I'm going. I don't have a settled job, nothing. And you were like, Gabriela, I feel the universe has brought us together for a reason. Yes. You're like, you told me, it says, I developed this program. Come. She's like, come see me. First time. Come see me. And of course I was like, yeah, why not? With this, I mean, she's this cute little one. What's she gonna do? Like, I love it. I didn't know what it was, but I'm also the kind of mentality of life puts things in your paths for a reason. And this sounded like nothing but good stuff. And I said, okay, I'll go. And it was very strange, and it was very new, and it was very vulnerable and intimate. And it's so funny because in all how much I want to show, what this did was pull out even more. And I said, oh, I'm usually so good, but this one was diving even deeper in many points that you and I know, where I've been like, almost very uncomfortable, like, oh, but this is too deep, and I don't like these questions, and I don't like what's going, this is too hard, this is too much. So it was such an interesting experience and very difficult, but there was something, so like, you could feel something working in it, and I loved it. And it was exactly the kind of stuff I love: pictures and words and questions and talking and exploring, and you can feel it physically working on your brain. And I love the sensation. And it just kept going and going and going and going until I started asking questions, and I started, diving deep. And I think you saw something in me that said, maybe this is something that you want to do too. And of course, I always love learning and expanding. I was already so fascinated by the program, and I did. And even through the training, so much fight. And there was so much fight into it. It took a long time until I was able to break that stiffness within me, which every now and then there's still more stiffness to break, to be able to learn and to grow. And then I became a practitioner, and I'm sharing with other people, but I'm still learning and growing with my clients. So it's never ending. It is a really wonderful cascading experience that happened just like Show Me, slowly over time. Yeah. But it's still in a short amount of time compared to how long in life I'd been going on being who I was. And then I was with Show Me, and whoosh, it's almost like you said, it's been 5 years now. And I'm like, what, that's it? Yeah, 35 years of my life, I was always like this. And in 5 years, I was able to go from like here, like the quantum leaps from here to here. So it's incredible in many ways.
It's actually, for me, to see, you know, you now versus where I met you back then. And you said fighting, fighting, fighting. And I remember that we used to record, you know, the online course. And you were like, you were volunteered to do the process with me. And the word suffering was there. And I remember that it hit you, that part of your life was really get kind of like addictive to that word. And now when you're talking and I see you and I see where you are and I see the journey and I see the interconnections that you are making now in your life versus back then when you just started with a lot of fighting, I can tell that I talk with a different person. And I want to highlight all kinds of milestones of throughout your way that I could see the quantum leaps. I could see that you really created some kind of like, first of all, I could see that, you know, the commitment to the process was major. It's all the time like that. Like when you're committed to something, it's growing. And it felt like you were tasting it at the beginning and you were like testing it. But once you started to see that it's moving, something is moving, something is shifting, you became so committed. And I can tell that every time, and listen, I can see your journey, it's like all our journeys are not smooth, but the reactions and the response versus what was there in the beginning to what you're going through today, and the responses that I hear from you and the responsibilities are totally different than what it was. And I want you to give me some highlights. Like, share some highlights that you can share and you feel comfortable to share. I'm not sure, like, just it's yours. But it will be more concrete to understand it.
Oh, there's so many wonderful moments. I do remember the one of suffering. That was a very important one for me. It was a very important moment of release as well, because it was about my relationship with suffering. Because suffering came up, and I always was looking at it through the game of something being thrown upon me. When I had that breakthrough, it was the realization of suffering wasn't, even though we have hard times, which brings up suffering wasn't actually something I was welcoming, I was bringing in. It was something that I had developed a relationship with and I was holding on to. And every time something happened, because suffering was constantly by my side, it was so easy for me to fall into the suffering, because suffering was like my playmate there all the time. And that was a realization. At that moment, I remember that we were talking about that, and I know that video is up, where I realized that I had that relationship with suffering, because we don't actively look at the relationships with our shadow selves or our limiting beliefs. We see as all the negative stuff being outside energies coming in, when the truth is, from what I can tell now, it's outside instances that come in, and it's internal. It's our internal reaction that brings up suffering or pain or sadness to whatever comes our way. Because I could just easily have things come my way and be like, that doesn't need to affect me. But because I had such a deep relationship with suffering, I was like, oh, something's happening. And suffering was like, my turn, I'm up. So that's why I was always in suffering. because I had such a deep relationship attached to suffering. And it was one of those moments where I realized it didn't mean, and this is very important, it didn't mean that it solved my relationship with suffering. It just meant that I was aware of it. I didn't actually realize how much it was having a hold of me, because that is the first major step. And that was very similar to many of my major milestones, which show me was the awareness, who I was, my limiting beliefs, or even who I was in the power moments of my life. Because after so much time of somebody as a regular human being trying to grow into whatever everybody else wants us to be, we lose the authentic sense of who we are, and we start binding with other things. So there were the major breakthroughs were things like that, where I recognized my relationship with the negative, like suffering. But then there were other great breakthroughs where I realized my connections with the good part of myself, which is something that I hadn't done in a long time. But no, that was a big one. But there are many other instances that weren't as nice to go. I mean, it wasn't that it was nice, but I remember we had a class where I was training to be a practitioner. And you know, it's funny, to this day, I don't actually remember what it was. Someone asked me a question. Someone asked me something, and I said, no, I don't think that's me. And they had the audacity to say, no, I think that is you. This is what you're doing. And I went, how dare you? How dare you tell me that this is what I'm doing? How dare you? And I remember I shut down and I left the meeting because I was so overcome with anger. I was so angry because I was like, how dare this person put me on the spot? And there was something in that anger. And I remember that thankfully you and the group gave me space to be like, there's obviously something coming out. And it's so funny because you only seem to think of the good stuff. This seemed like it was the negative stuff, but it was important. It was very important, because that was always my way of thinking of like, absolutely not, like, no, 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 no. And by working through that and coming back and being like, you know, if it was true, I have an opportunity to say, I haven't thought about that way. And maybe even if it wasn't, I could understand, be like, I don't have to, react that way. I could have also said, that's interesting, look into that. Maybe I don't agree. But it was very evident that I had a very harsh reaction to things, and show me that was one of the major moments too, because I was embarrassed. I said, why did I react that way? Like that, the whole group was like, Gabby's gone. I said, this isn't what I want. So it taught me about myself, about, like this isn't what I want for myself, because then it creates anxiety and it creates all this energy, and I don't want that. Just so many wonderful moments, and even under moments that have nothing to do with being in Show Me, but many quantum leaps or changes in my life that I know are because Show Me offered me these opportunities to grow and expand, because that's what happens, is the neural connections that we make. And now, there are certain things that come up where I say, oh, I would have responded differently to that before. But because Show Me taught me how to listen, take a breath, really, really hear what's happening around me, maybe really understand the questions and the answers. We study a lot about question and answer. Gives me an opportunity to have a different reaction, and hopefully a different reaction that I'm going to enjoy. Because hopefully I can have a reaction that's going to cause me the least amount of or suffering, like where I'm going to separate that kind of relationship with suffering a little more, and have a little bit more self-control, and only understand that suffering comes around and maybe is necessary when I need to release something or when I need to learn something, but not something that I use as an automatic response or a lifeboat, because that's what it was. That time was I was using suffering to kind of save me.
So if we think about the word suffering, what right now, instead of suffering, is the highest value that is leading you? If back then it was suffering, what is now?
I'm not going to fight it. The word that keeps coming to my head is acceptance, which is strange, because someone would say, well, suffering was a negative. Shouldn't acceptance be positive? And I said, well, it's because I have a difficult relationship with acceptance now. But acceptance is on the forefront of my mind. Acceptance is, can I accept that things take time? Can I accept that there are things of me that I want to change, but for the better, not to try to make myself a different, because sometimes I do. I say, I don't like who I am. I wish I was like someone else. I wish I could be different, because I don't accept my value, which is, I have a perfect example. A friend of mine the other day, we were complaining because I said, nobody ever invites me out. I said, I'm always telling people, let's meet, let's do something, let's go out, let's plan an event, let's shoot a video, let's do this, let's go dancing, music, and nobody invites me out. I said, a very clear, like, I have no invitations of people reaching out and saying, Gabby, what are you doing this weekend? Or Gabby, like, where are you going? And she said, that's true. I'm one of those people, I never reach out. Because we had done brunch with a group of girls. I was the one who planned it all. And she says, but I'm the kind of person that says yes to everything. She says, I don't plan anything, but I'll say yes to anything. She goes, Gabby, if you invite me to anything, I'll say yes. And I go, but why wouldn't you ever reach out to me? And she goes, but that's not me. She says, I don't know how to plan things. I don't know how to reach out. I don't have that in me. She goes, but I will accept because I am looking to do things. And she goes, and then when no one plans anything, I end up home alone. And I said, well, why don't you plan? She goes, it's just not me. That's not why. She goes, but you, she says, Gabby, this is why you have the job you have at the office. You are a natural planner. You come up with all the ideas. You get everybody excited. You're the one that revs up. And I said, so you mean I have to live the rest of my life being the person that plans something? And she goes, well, is that so bad? Like, that you have this gift that you can excite people and plan things and do things? She's like, obviously, yeah, hopefully one day it'd be nice. Someone like initiates, maybe a partner can invite me on a date or something. And I said, actually, that would be enough. If someone invited me on one date, 1 week, the rest of the week, I wouldn't care for any other orders. It would all be me. And it was so interesting because then I said, oh, I never thought about that, of just accepting that was my role in life, that I plan, that I invite, that actually there are people who are looking to me, looking towards me, waiting for me to plan something because they can't do it themselves. And I was like, maybe this is the balance in the universe, and I have to accept my balance, but not just accept, respect it, and hopefully be really proud and happy of it. Because what I would really like is to be able to tell people, I am the planner. You know what? You're not going to invite me, but that's okay, because you guys can't plan anything properly anyway. So it's going to be me. So I'm going to be the planner.
It's interesting because you said before suffering and then acceptance, and then you move to the example of nobody, like the complaining that we have when the autopilot is coming, and is coming from a place that we are speaking from the victim story. Still, nobody's inviting me. But you learn already that, and it was beautiful example of processing it from a message that you got from someone else, and then to own the responsibility, to accept the responsibility that we need to do in order to change the music, in order to move forward. And I want to ask you another question. If you think about Show Me, if you think about bridging between two sides, bridging between people, like creating relationships. And obviously, we are starting with ourselves. We're starting to create a relationship first in Show Me with ourselves. But I would like to hear examples, because you do have examples of how you really create bridge between people through that process. And you have a beautiful example. So I would like you to share it here.
Yeah, so I have this wonderful client who's still my client over 2 years now. She's my client. And we had met through Instagram, where she was an artist who did these beautiful cards. 'Cause I like tarot and oracle cards. And she did a vulnerable post one day where she was reaching out, saying that she felt lost, she felt confused, she felt alone, she felt all the things that I remember I was feeling, just asking for help. So I reached out very timidly, and I was just, I don't want you to feel like I'm a scam trying to show you this program, whatever you've never heard of. And I said, but it's a program you've never heard of. And I said, it's worked for me in this way. And I said, I can always share it with you. And she's a lot like me. It's so much like me. We're very creative, different personality. Like, you could tell different if you looked at us, and yet somehow So the same in so many ways. And she was curious and reached out and said, I want to know. And I said, so we had the free trial. And she said, okay, I'll keep going. And it was so hard for her, even more hard. She's from the States, and it's just, different attitude, different mentality. And it was all very strange, and all the feelings and questions. But she kept going and going and going. And she trusted me, even though it was hard, even though I saw days where she was like, oh, this makes no sense. Like, it makes no sense. And which taught me patience and gentleness, and being like, okay, well, I know I've been here, and I know this is hard, and okay, but this is why, show me teaches you. It teaches you. And over time, started softening and softening and softening, and we finished a cycle. And she said, well, I actually kind of like this, let's go again. And she says, and I haven't learned everything I want to learn about myself. And I told her that was going to happen. And I said, this is all peeling back layers, which could be endless. You're always learning. So she said, okay, let's go again. Let's go again. And at one point she said, come out and visit me. I'm in the States. And I said, okay. So I went for a weekend. It was going to be her birthday, shortly after my birthday, I think. And we met, very different, but we shared time together. We did art together. We didn't do any show me there. We just went to meet and talk about art and life and just enjoy. And she was very different. I have to admit, there was a time where I was like, I want to go back home. The States is very different than Canada. But we stayed close, and we actually dedicate the first half hour, like separate from our session. I go, girl, let me tell you what happened this weekend to me. And she's like, oh, tell me everything. She knows everything about my personal private life. So separate from show me. We'll have our check-in as friends.
Wow.
And we check in with each other and what's going with you and me. And you know what, this guy and dates and this and my relationship and what's got everything. And then I said, okay, now let's move on to show me.
This is what I love in Show Me. That Show Me, it's not about me coaching you. It's me and you in a journey together. Me and you in eye level. And we are playing. And yes, we are peeling layers. Sometimes it's not easy, but it's playful. And it's a game. Another story that I love that you're sharing, it's about you and your family. Can you share a little bit about that? Okay.
The one with my family surprised me because we had sort of a rift. Well, I grew up without my mother and my sister for many years. I separated from them when I was 12, family circumstances. My sister grew up like an only child to my mother. I grew up with my father, stepmother, and two stepbrothers in a volatile household. So she had a very loving, very nurturing kind of just whatever she wanted. And I was in a very toxic, very dangerous space. And we only met up again as sisters when I was 25. She was 23. Yeah. And by then we had become very different people. And we hated each other. Hate in many ways, and we were very different people, and so many decisions that she had made and I had made, they were just clashed and they riffed. And she was doing something with her life. She moved to Vancouver. I moved to Toronto. Still Vancouver, Toronto, very different energies, and the relationship was almost non-existent. I'd almost cut her out of my life completely because the decisions she was making on her life, I was like, I can't stand by this. This is crazy. She's hurting like our mom, we were just going to completely cut each other out. And the relationship with my mother, love her, but I was very separate from her. I couldn't go to her and open up. Like back in the day, we didn't have all this technology where I could, if I wanted to talk to my mother, I had to buy prepaid cards if I wanted to conversate. Even still, it was on landlines. My father at the time could pick up the phone, hear private conversation. And even if I could tell her, I'm being abused, there's nothing she could do. And I didn't want to, I was trying to protect her. And so I didn't have that relationship with her. And I grew up with resentment too, because I was like, this is her fault. I was like, she left. This was her fault. My life, my suffering's her fault. My sister is a moron. Like it was all torn. But I turned to them and I said, I'm doing something. And I showed them what it did to me. And I said, this is what it's doing for me. And they had to admit, they say, you're different. We can tell you're different. And I said, listen, I just need to practice on people. I said, I don't know. I don't really have that many friends. And I said, and I don't know why, but I feel like this could be good for us. And they had also offered, they said, if you need someone, we're curious. So I worked with them because they were my practice. We had to pick 3 practice people. And it changed everything because we all had to learn how to open up. They had to trust me to open up. I had to trust them. I got to learn more about them because, I asked them questions and they have to find their own answers. But in their own answers, we dove into past, to history. My mother was so interesting at the beginning. It was superficial. Well, last month, and I said, if that's all you can remember, then we need to go to a doctor. And I guess. But is there nothing more you can think of? And then at one point, something came to her. I can't remember. I must have asked the right question or something. And she said, "Oh, I just had a memory. I was 5 or 6 years old. I had did this. It caused all this problem. And I was so scared of blah, blah, blah." And I said, "And why did you do that? And where did that come from? And why were you scared?" And back. And my mother suddenly said some words out loud, which were her own acknowledgement of something. And my mother, who had only seen cry 4 times in her entire life, burst into tears, which is an incredibly vulnerable place to be, to cry in front of your child. And fortunately, I was so set in a space for her that it didn't affect me in a way. It's not that I didn't care, but I was comfortable making it a space for her. And I felt almost honored that I was there for her. And of course, she was, and cried. And I was like, "This is wonderful." I said, and she says, "Why?" I never realized I'm crying. I never realized this is something important until I said it out loud. And because we had this separation, that moment of vulnerability somehow lightened everything between us. And then after that, she would come to me for relationship advice and life advice. And she would open and say, "Gabriela, like, this is happening to me." And I'd be there as her daughter and be like, "Okay, breathe. This is what you need to do. Like, just calm down and think about what you wanted." So she comes to me for advice. And now a little bit more, I still want to take care of her. But I had a few instances of dangerous things that happened in my life recently. And then my mother was like, "Why didn't you come and tell me? I opened up to you. How could you not open?" And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Okay, I will." And then my sister and I, was the same thing where she finally, I think, found a place where she could be heard, because we never wanted to hear each other. As sisters, we're always fighting. But I finally said, "I'll listen to you," because I never listened to her when we were younger. I was the older sister. She followed me everywhere. And I was like, get out. And then finally I said, it was like me stopping and suddenly turning and be like, "Okay, what do you need to say? I'm listening." And she was able to. And I was like, I didn't know this was my sister. I didn't know this was her needs. And I started watching. The moment the relationship changed wasn't with her, was where they sent me a video where we're little girls playing. And I was playing and she was following me. "Oh, I want to do what you do." I have a memory of that video where at that time I wanted to kill her, because I was like, "Stop it, leave me alone, get my space." Now that I talked to my sister, I saw the video and I said, "Oh my gosh, she adored me. She adored me. She admired me. She loved me. She wanted to do what I was doing, because she was like this vision of my older sister. Like, it was almost idolization, which is what I've always wanted, to be idolized anyway. But at that time I was like, "You're so annoying." And I saw that video, and I remember I was with an ex at the time, and I burst out crying. I cried for so long. And he was like, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Because I didn't actually realize," and it's so emotional for me, how much love my sister had for me. And I didn't recognize that. And I pushed her and pushed her and pushed her away. And, I say, "Oh, I don't understand why my sister makes these decisions." And I go, but my whole life, my sister was turning towards me, and I pushed her away, and then we were forced away. And it broke me, because I saw the video and I wanted to say, don't push her away, but what's done is done. It's, the past is past. But then I said, okay, I can't go back and change how I felt about my sister, but I can do that now. So now when my sister comes to me and says, "What should I do?"
what do you do? Like, what should I do? And I said, oh, I'm here. You want my advice? I said, yes, let's talk about it. And I said, first, let's think about what it is you want, because, now I know how to talk, but then I'll listen. I'll be like, yeah, you need this. Yeah. Oh, what? Or even simple things. What's the skincare product? I'll send you the link to the product, whatever you want. Well, what do you use? I'll tell you exactly what it is. Well, how's the method of, I'll write it down for you, or the rest, anything you want. So now my sister comes and asks something and I go, yes. So the point that I found that they had positions opening at my job, and I said, they have positions, I think you'd be great for it. Because she was like, oh, your job, you have this and you're that. And I'm like, if you want it, you can probably get it. I said, apply. She got the job. So now we work for the same company. She works in Vancouver and I work in Toronto. Yeah, she's coming up to her 3 months, so she will be permanent. I'm permanent now. She'll be permanent with contract. I trust it for sure, and we work for the same. She followed me, and we talk all the time. We'll go on Teams and we'll message each other. We'll ask each other how's life in the office. We'll chit chat. We'll laugh about the office stuff, and it's great because she's in Vancouver and I'm in Toronto, but we worked for the same company, and I welcomed that because I said, Paloma, you should have your own job and your own life and your own this. And I said, and I want that if that's what you want. She said, that is. And I said, then we'll get it for you. It doesn't matter. That's my same company. I don't care. And, and it was. Yeah.
You were talking, and all what I could see is that, yes, every time we are getting into a new spiral of new dimension of the neural path that we need to reconnect and rewire. We have resistance, and then we accept it. And it seems like at the beginning it was, you were resisting a lot of stuff. But now you already see, the roadmap, and you accept that there is a resistance, but there is an acceptance. And all this journey, you are like talking about holding space, asking questions, asking the right questions for them. So, I feel like it was a journey from being so focused in on something that was very painful. And instead of that, you took this pain and you healed it through others, the way you focused out and hold space for people and learn through them. You took this suffering and you moved it into more and more acceptance, and you can see how much power you have, like how people are holding you so high, your friends, that they see how you're the initiator of things, instead of like complaining about it, accepting it. Look at your sister, that she's looking about, like she was looking at you ever since she was born like that, but you couldn't see that. And it's a journey of self-love. It's a beautiful journey, and you're doing a great job. And I want to ask you, if you would summarize what Show Me is, how would you say? What would you say?
No, I'm sharing Show Me a lot with people, so I have a general gist. Show Me is a wonderful new tool based on ancient philosophy and beliefs mixed with modern neurosciences. So you're bringing a paradox of like both different worlds together. It's a game and a tool that helps the mind create new connections, releasing limiting beliefs, by ways of the exercise. We have the maps with the words and the images, and by having a practitioner who lays out the kind of foundation by creating space and asking questions. And it's a tool to be able to help us grow, expand, tone the brain. This is why we have with the kit, we have like that yoga mat, because we think of it as like the yoga for the brain, because our bodies, our minds are like our bodies, where you exercise them too. If you see there's something you don't like, if you see you're weak, like you say, I have a weakness, or I'm not strong, you work that out. And to do that, you do exercises. Well, these are exercises, but they're exercises for the mind. And it works in such a a gentle process way, the same way like Jim does. It's not, well, I would like within a month to solve my issue. Well, no, in a month you're not going to get six packs, because that's not how it works. Because also the brain, this is important for people to know. I want everyone to know this. The brain, it doesn't work overnight with, even when and therapy is great, but there's a big difference between someone telling you this is how you should be thinking than someone asking you questions up until the point where you say, you know what, I realized I actually don't like thinking this way. I would rather think this way. And then your brain opens and has this kind of aha and shake, because it says it's my choice, because we're all ego, we are ego at the end of the day. So this is a tool that works with the ego of the mind, which is unavoidable, to allow it the kind of space to first, see what it wants, work towards what it wants, create new connections, and continue to grow. And I call it like an added bonus is that it offers a different way of communication. This is why it's so important to work with practitioners, because you learn to accept questions, to share something back. And then when you actually are part of that, even though I would ask questions, my clients would start asking other people questions, or they would ask me questions, and they would open up, and then I would open up. When I was practicing, they would tell me things, and I realized, I didn't realize that either. That's what Show Me is so great, and it's not just one person. It's not just us as practitioners sitting here like robots, like ChatGPT, just asking the right question. I learn from all my clients. When they say something, I go, I never thought of, and I'll take my notebook and I'll be, that's a great idea. And I tell them, I said, I'm going to write this down if that's okay. And you learn so much. Show Me really is a full circle program, because that's how it is. We talk about the elements first, but it's full circle even amongst ourselves and our clients about communication and growth and change. Neural synapses, if you want the scientific part. It's just a wonderful, almost mystic program, even though it is based on science, because it is, but there's so many times where connections will happen that you go, that can't just be coincidence. That has to be just the beautiful energy of the world, just coming around full circle. It's so cool in so many different ways. And even if you are a person who is very analytical and logical, which is like one of my clients, Show Me has a way of working with that too, because Show Me does not come and tell you what it is. Show Me will work with the map of what your mind already is, and then it plays with it as is. It is not invasion of a tool. It's not. It is it's like cohabitation of a tool.
Love it.
And you can grow from the essence of your natural self into something more advanced and more advanced and more advanced and more advanced. I know that's a long, complex way of describing Show Me, but Show Me it's not so simple to just be like, it's not just therapy, just coaching, it's much more than that, which I think actually a lot of people will appreciate these days. Because people are looking for answers, but I don't think they believe in the simple answer of like, just going to go and talk to one person or take this. They understand that it's more than that. And I think they're going to appreciate the fact that Show Me is more than that.
Wow. Hold on. You said so much good stuff, and I just looked at my computer and I saw that it was my microphone was like fixated on that. So I will do my best in the editing, because you said so much good juice and beautiful information and authentic. And it feels that, as you said, Show Me, it's not one thing. It's interconnected. It's like a puzzle of 10,000 pieces that everyone is combining it in a different way. And I'm so privileged to have you here and in my life and in this journey of Show Me. And I love to see you grow like a flower. And thank you for everything, Gabriela. You are part of this puzzle. You are part of Show Me. And you're a great ambassador to show the world that we can definitely, we are interconnected. We are connected. We are the same, in the science they say that at the end there is nothing here and we're all one. So it seems like I feel that by your work you are all the time connecting more pieces, and I can see the progress. I can see the picture getting brighter and brighter, and thank you for that. Thank you for sharing everything. Thanks.
No, of course, I owe so much of my growth to Show Me. Like, it showed up in my life multiple times when I needed, and it's still showing up. Like, I started like a new cycle with Show Me on myself the other day because I was frustrated with myself about something, and I said, well, if I'm frustrated, then get to work on it. So I pulled out a new map and I started working. So, and I do believe that, yes, Show Me is this wonderful cycle that we grow and expand with, and you've offered that to us. So, if I'm going to thank anybody, it's thanking you and the partner that you worked with to create this program, because and I feel it's going to expand and grow in so many ways. I know you allowed me space to. I recently translated the entire program into Spanish. Sharing it with some Spanish people, see if we can start sharing it with Spanish-speaking community, which I think will be absolutely wonderful. So thank you, because not only have you taught me something great and brought something great to the world, you're wonderful person and friend. Like, I'm more than honored to say that you're like one of my best friends, and I think it's okay to have multiple best friends, and you're definitely one of my best soul sister. I call it like soul sister. We're both the fire soul sisters, and I'm forever